Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to this session, Thursday session. It is Thursday, April the 11th at 1500 UK time. Just the usual housekeeping. Can you just type yes in the box if you can see and hear me? Sean, if you can say hello. Andrew, you can say hello.
Hello. Hey, everyone.
Hi, folks. Hi, Laura. Hi, James. Hi, Paul. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Don. Mr. Foster, good to see you, buddy. Haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you, mate. Hi, Greg. Hi, Si. Seems that everything is okay. So today we're doing something we call On the Shoulders of Giants, where we interview one of our clients that's been with us for a year, sort of an anniversary. I think it was last month. And today it is Sean. So what we're going to do, excuse me, we're going to ask a series of questions about Sean, where he was, where he's been. If you've got any questions, if you just type one in the box, any questions for Sean, that is, feel free to type one in the box if you've got any questions for Sean. So Sean, without further ado, give us an introduction of who you are, what you do in the market and that type of thing, please, but then where you're based and that type of thing.
Sure. So I'm Sean Bartley. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, live in Atlanta, Georgia, by way of New York City. Um, I service I kind of work within the industries of manufacturing engineering. So I partner with HR, director level and above for HR, operations, engineering, and manufacturing. Those are the departments primarily. Um, Started in this journey 2013, and I took a year off to jump into another sector of sales, not staffing related, but 9 years total in the staffing industry.
Awesome. Great. Great. And what's the sort of average salary that you recruit at, Sean, in the US?
Nothing below 80,000. So between 80 to 150.
Okay. What would you say the average is then?
I'd say average is 100.
Yeah. Cool.
Mhm.
And the average percentage you charge?
25 now.
25 now.
Not,
Yeah.
not not the case when I started.
No. Okay. So I'm just coming on to that next. From your point of view, what prompted you to reach out, or when we reached out to you, I suspect,
Yeah,
what was the reason for you agreeing to the meeting and everything? What was going through your mind, or what was going on for you then?
sure. So I started the business in 2022. Yeah, 2022, March. I'd been working in the business for a year, right? Before reaching out to you guys. I hadn't known of any recruitment or staffing company resources like this or training or coaching programs. So you guys were really the first that I were introduced to. And I got word of it by way of your podcast. So I had taken in just several episodes of the podcast, listened to you guys, thought it was pretty awesome that there was a community, of business owners just like myself. And that prompted me to reach out when one of your videos solicited or at least asked. Your call to action was, hey, if you want to book a call with me just to see how we can help you improve, click on this link. And that's what I did. And at that time, I really was in a space where I knew I needed coaching. I have a years of experience in network marketing, right? So I'd done that previously to jumping into staffing. So I knew coaching, I knew having a mentor was something that I needed. I didn't think it was necessary within my first year because, again, I'm still getting my legs underneath me. But I knew moving into year two, I needed some sort of a direction, some sort of a roadmap. And I listened to enough of your content to just say, okay, I'd at least like to take a call and see how you guys could help out.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And look, there's a lesson there for everybody then, just from the point of view of marketing. So Sean got to hear of us through our podcast. I
Mhm.
know a few of you are doing podcasts, but I know most people here are not doing podcasts. Dead easy to do. You can do it on YouTube and then YouTube. You can do it on Zoom and then put it on onto YouTube as well. But it's just another client magnet. Remember, we talk about this all the time. Unless the client, first of all, knows of you, that's the first thing. And unless you've got that authority, you're not going to get the business. And think about it with a podcast or any sort of client magnet, you're kind of marketing to your prospects while you're sleeping. So Sean's in the States. So there's about a 5 or 6 hour time difference. I don't know when he listened to our first podcast and when he listened to them, but I wasn't there is the point I'm making. And the other point I'm making, you can do exactly the same. And the moment you're doing this sort of thing and putting that content out there, it's helped position you as an authority in your particular niche. Drew, I want to come to you first of all. Anything you want to add or ask? Then Don, Michelle, and Mike.
Yeah, just a quick question, Sean. So you said that
Yeah.
you knew going into your second year that you needed coaching. Can you give us an
Yeah.
idea of, I guess, some of the challenges that you were facing or roadblocks you were facing in your business at that time that made you think that you needed some, I guess, guidance to overcome them?
Sure. So unpredictability in delivery, right? So I'm on the business dev side. I rarely wear the hat of a recruiter. I've always been the person with any agency that I've worked with since 2013. I've always been the biz dev guy, right? Going out hunting for new clients. And I knew in starting up my own firm, I needed the fulfillment side of my business to kind of be outsourced, right? I needed to partner with recruiters who could work the jobs and, do the things that I needed. And it was unpredictable. I'd gone through maybe 5 or 6 recruiters off of Upwork. That was my sole method of finding somebody to help me with fulfillment. And yeah, it was just unpredictable. I didn't know when they were working. I didn't know when they were working on the jobs, or how much hours they were putting in, or what it looked like, because I truly didn't know from week to week what they were working on. I didn't have many conversations until I had an actual role that they were working. There was no real schedule. So that was the tough part, right? Not really knowing what the outcome was going to be. Everything that I was working was 100% contingent. So I'm always going up against, time. There was no partnerships that I had. There was nothing exclusive that I was working on. And the fees reflected it, right? It wasn't, I'm killing myself for, a $12,000 fee or a $13,000 fee. And it wasn't predictable in terms of the income that I was making and the schedule that the recruitment team was working on, as well as I had no marketing. I didn't know how to go out and really get the lead. A lot of the business in the first year was me taking clients that I'd worked with in the past and bringing them over to, Crown Technical Staffing. But there was no new pipeline or new leads coming in other than the stuff that I was working on based on relationships I'd built, over the past couple of years. So that's what needed to change. I needed a pipeline and predictability.
Thanks, Sean. Don, and by the way, any question from the else, just type one in the box and we will come to you.
Yeah, 2 questions, if I might. Sean, great to have you today, and it's hard to believe it's already been a year, eh?
In a year.
On the program. So question number 1, is what's the number one thing you've done since joining the program that has changed your business the most for the better? And I'll put these in the chat box if it's easier. And then the second is, what would you tell someone that's joined recently, now reflecting kind of back over the past year, maybe something that you would have done differently looking, in arrears?
Sure. So one thing is, it's hard to narrow it down really to just one thing that I've done, but I would suggest consistent content on LinkedIn has been helpful for me, right? Because those are all advertisements, giving potential clients a peek into my thought process, a peek into just the way I think and the problems that I solve for. All those posts live on LinkedIn, whether I'm logged on or not. And people are liking, engaging, interacting with the commentary. And that builds trust, right? Likability, relatability builds the trust. The trust leads to when I pick up the phone and have a conversation with them, they know who I am. They have some sort of foundation in terms of what I do and how I might be able to serve them. Whether the timing is right or not is I can't control that, but I can at least control the content and the information that I share. So that's been helpful. That spawns off into the newsletter. I've got 400 subscribers. Again, not a terrible high amount of subscribers, but they're all relevant to my industry. Of course, not every single one of them, but for the majority, they are relevant to my industry. About 15% are director level and above. So I find that has been helpful. I've been very consistent. That's one of the first things I did when I joined the program. I know Drew and Terry said, start a newsletter. So I'm on my 49th article. So I've been here 52 weeks, 55 weeks or so. So it was really at the onset of my career here. that I started the newsletter. That's been super helpful because when I converse with people, they often mention the articles that I've written, or I've turned the articles into lead magnets. So that's something that I separately utilize to attract more leads. So it's been twofold for me.
That's great. How do people find out about your newsletter?
I again, using it as a lead magnet. So I have a target list of people that, hey, we recently just put out a report or recently put out an article identifying 6 lean strategies for your manufacturing facility. Would it be okay if I send you a copy? That will contain the link to my newsletter. So if they want to opt in, they can do so. Or it'll just be a separate article that they can then opt in from there as well. I've run campaigns for my newsletter. It's a part of my emailing sequence from time to time. I do need to revamp it just to, share more relevant content, but I know there's a few things that I need to do for the newsletter, but that's how I do it right now.
Thanks.
Yep. And you also asked, what would I share with someone brand new coming into the
Yeah, maybe
program?
something you would have done differently or like that, on reflection, because we all
Yeah.
go out there and just do things in a hurry. At least I find myself doing that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, kind of looking back and going, well, if I had it to do over again, I might have done it this way or, a little bit differently. So,
Sure. I would say the first thing is don't try to consume all the information at once because it is a lot. There is new info every time we have a clinic Thursday or Tuesday or Monday meeting, it goes into the repository, right? So that's more information to consume. So you're constantly on a hamster wheel of information to consume. So I would suggest just taking things in bite-sized portions, going through the material as it's laid out, and trying it as you go along. I'm not even halfway done through the program's content, but what I've gone through, I've tried to implement as best as I could.
it's great. So kind of plan to review in that manner. Yeah. Good.
Take
Still
a
lots to learn, as I understood.
lot to learn
as well.
Yeah. A lot to learn, a lot to change, a lot, even from when I first started, it's some of the information I've tried it didn't work out, I've switched to something else and that worked, and just revamping my scripts, it's just always a constant state of revamping and trying to improve and just A/B testing, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and what works for one person may not work for you. That's one thing I've noticed too, right? It's not a template. It truly is depending upon your industry, depending upon your target audience. Getting the language of your target audience is super important so that your content, your copy, your emails, your newsletter, your podcast, all of that speaks to the language of who you're targeting, not necessarily what worked for Mike. Right. And it could work for me, but I've got to tweak it and enhance it and make it work for my audience.
That's a really great point. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Don. And look, just want to touch on the newsletter again. All the details of how to create a newsletter is in the members area. You're probably sick of me saying this. There's no cost in doing the newsletter other than time, and there's no risk. The worst that can happen is people that ignore your newsletter. But it's a great way to boost your own brand. Position you again as a thought leader, as an authority, enhances your credibility. The key, I think one of the big things is staying top of mind, because LinkedIn will then reach out to your connection saying, whoever it is, Sean's got a newsletter has been published today or whatever, and it's great for lead generation as well. And by the way, what we found as well, those that have a newsletter that they publish on a regular basis, they get an improvement then in their chat when they're reaching out to people to get appointments via LinkedIn, because again, you're not reaching out to cold prospects now. They know who you are. Oh, it's Sean. Yeah, I've read his newsletters. I've listened to his podcast. See what's going on here? Yeah, they've got to know you, like you, and trust you before anything's going to happen. So thanks for reminding us of that, Sean. Sure. Michelle, any thoughts, questions for Sean?
No, it's fantastic, Sean. Thanks for sharing, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. I mean, I have got some questions, but I was just going to say I'll wait and sort of see if because I don't know what you're going to talk about and what you're going to share. So yeah, I'll just leave it for now in case I miss some of the things.
Okay.
Thanks, Michelle. Mr. Merrick?
I think firstly, hats off to Sean. 2 weeks into the program, he's launched a newsletter. I think Sean stands as a testament to taking action and getting things done. And it's, we talking about it a lot. It's never going to be perfect. If you wait for something to be perfect, you're never going to do it. What Sean has done is tried things. Doesn't work, moves on to something else, tries something else. I'd say, like Michelle, a couple of questions, which might be covered off, but there's one question I'd just like to ask. When you were first in dialogue with Terry about, becoming part of this group, becoming part of this community, you made a decision. You made a decision to say, yes, I'm going to join. And that's, it's a decision. It's a financial commitment. It's a time commitment. I'd like to understand a little bit more about your decision-making process in terms of, was that, yes, I'm just going to do this, or were you hesitant about that? And what made you make that decision?
I would say I wasn't very hesitant, right? What I probably would have done differently, and this is no knock to Terry and Drew or the community, right? You guys were my first introduction to communities of recruitment agencies, staffing company owners. So I had no foundation, I had no basis. So I may have looked at other groups, right? That would probably be something that I would do differently. Look at other groups, see just kind of what I'm 99% certain I would have come back here, but I really have no foundation, right? Because I didn't explore, I didn't look at, I didn't listen to anyone else's content or podcast or anything before you guys. So I trusted the ability to help me based on what I was looking for, simply based off the podcast information. Because Terry, you and I, we spoke for maybe 30 minutes, and it took 30 minutes for me to decide that, okay, yeah, we're going to move forward. Just because I knew that one thing that helped too, Terry, when you stated that if I do not get a result, let's say I think in the first 2 or 3 months, and I'm not happy with the results, I can work with you for free until I get a result, until I at least make my investment back. So that was a good call to action for someone who, it was a win-win in my regard. Like if I don't make any money in the next 2 or 3 months, I can at least work with them until they prove their information to be helpful enough for me to make the money back. So there was minimal risk. I wouldn't say no risk at all, but it was minimal. At least I didn't see it much as a risk. I found it risky to continue going on another year doing what I'd been doing before. That to me was more of a risk. It was just too helter-skelter for me to have any dependency on anything.
I think for me, you've nailed it there, Sean. The risk of not changing was greater than the risk of doing something.
Yeah.
And what I found throughout talking to people for many, many years is that successful people will make decisions very quickly. Unsuccessful people will sit on the fence and dither and not make decisions, because the decision to join this group is one thing. The decision then to take the information that's being shared and implement it is a totally different thing. So you made the decision to join this group, and some people join this group 3 months into it said it doesn't work because they haven't been doing the stuff.
Yeah.
You've been doing the stuff, and I think, as I said earlier, a testament to the fact that you follow the instructions, you do the stuff, you get results.
And it also didn't help that so I joined in March, April, May. So by May, I'd gotten my first exclusive agreement signed, had a job being worked, and that was my largest fee at that time. That was the largest fee that I'd gotten. So it didn't help that the information that I used actually got me an exclusive agreement, my first one, and also the highest fee that I'd gotten to date at that time. So I was pretty pissed with Terry and Drew, because I'm like, all right, now I can't get any money back because I've made more than what I invested. So, for me, it was like, okay, I guess this thing does work. I just have to stick with it and continue to revamp and try different things, because clearly, the process works. And I also, to your point, Mike, when you said people come in for 3 months and they, say that it doesn't work, I think I didn't start feeling truly comfortable with the process until 9 months into the program. So I'd say about October, November of last year is when it's like, okay, it's clicking. I see what's happening here. I see how the conversations need to flow, and I'm still learning 100%. But anything under 9 to 12 months of true dedication, I feel it's just a waste of time because you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. So that would also be my kind of, bat signal to a new person coming in, like, hey, at least dedicate 9 to 12 months to this program or to any program, quite honestly, because anything under that, it's so new from what you've been doing that you have to really rewire your mindset, rewire the way you converse with potential clients. And all that rewiring is not going to happen, in your first 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks, Sean. I know you got a question, Drew. Just a couple of points that Sean's made there I just thought was really interesting. We talked earlier about the podcast. We talked about the newsletter, and Sean said something. He said, I didn't listen to anybody else's podcast. Here's a question for you guys. How many of your competitors have got a podcast? I suggest most of them haven't. How many of your competitors have got a newsletter? Can you see the advantage you're going to have over your competitors? And we joked about this a few weeks ago about you just have to be better than your direct competitors to dominate the market. But that won't happen unless they've heard of you. Your potential clients out there have actually heard of you. So it's worth looking at that, seeing how many of your competitors have got a newsletter or have got a podcast. Thanks, Sean. Drew, I know you got a question. Over to you, Drew.
Yeah, I'm just interested to know, like, so you said that one of the sort of early results you got is that you got your, I think 2 months in, you got your highest fee you have ever gotten before, and you got your first exclusive. So can you, I guess, talk me through what made you want to go from contingency to, exclusive and retained route? And then I guess what conversations did you have with yourself in terms of wanting to ask for a higher fee and win a higher fee?
I think wanting to move from contingent to retained, or at least contingent, I'm still not 100% retained. It's primarily exclusive only is what I'm working on. I do have a contingent search going on right now, but that's just for a long-term client. Anything new, 100% of anything new will be exclusive. So what even prompted that was some level of predictability. The level of conversations that I'm having with clients are very different than the conversations I was having 12 months ago. Case in point, just yesterday, had a conversation with a client that I'm, working a search for. They came in with an offer. The offer was decent. The candidate was perfectly fine with, accepting the offer as is. But I knew that I could really cement a result for the client, number one, by helping them get a person who was a higher caliber candidate and putting them in a higher caliber role. So it was a project engineer that they were hiring for. We're working on now making them a senior project engineer so that that person can now influence the project engineer role beneath them, the person reporting into them. And it just makes for a more streamlined process. One, that's more money for the candidate. That's more money for Crown Technical Staffing, right? And it helps the client secure a position that was harder to fill because that candidate technically had the experience, but they were trying to put them into a lower level. So having the ear of the client is something that I didn't have before, to where I can influence the amount of money you're going to pay this person and the level or role at which this person is going to come in and influence and help their business. Those are the type of partnerships I didn't have, and I don't think I could have on a contingent basis because, again, I'm just working on speed. I'm working on 15, 20 jobs at a time. I'm going to close 4 or 5 of them, and the other 15 they either put it on hold or, so certain things happen. So I just found it to be such a waste of time. And the level of respect and the level of camaraderie and partnership that I have with the clients is very, very different today than I did when I first started. So I think those are the things that I can control that I didn't control before. So I would say that's primarily why I wanted to move from that contingent model. It was too helter-skelter, too up in the air, no real respect.
And in terms of like the sales process of itself, like what did you, I guess, what's the difference that you found from selling or offering a contingency service to offering a retained / exclusive service? Like how do you communicate that to the client?
Sure. I would say the biggest thing is breaking it up into parts. I'm not necessarily hunting a role. I'm not looking for a position that you have open today. That's something that I did in the past. I'm looking for opportunities that don't exist, or I'm looking for concerns or issues in your business that I have a candidate, or I can go find a candidate that they can solve. So it's more of a consultation versus what are you working on right now? What type of jobs do you have open? Anything in the next, 30 days? Or that's more of a rushed process, and that is such a low-hanging fruit that I'm not going to get the fees that I'm looking for working on a role that maybe 3 other agencies have worked on. You know, they kicked a couple of offers, and I'm now the 4th contingent recruiter coming along singing, I can help you, I can help you. Those are the 20%, 18%, 15% roles that I would get in the past. That's not the case today. So I would say that is that's where the process is a bit different. Far more consultation today, and really more problem solving. And a lot of the sales process starts before I even get on the phone. They've engaged with some level of content. They've answered a poll, which gives me insight into maybe issues or concerns that they're having in their business. They have responded to a lead that I've shared. They've done the survey. Yeah, they've done something to indicate that the door is open for me to have a consultative approach and a conversation with them, and they'll be open to it. So that is a very different approach. I didn't have anything to attract other than I was the cold calling king. I'm going to pound the phones till the phones can't be pounded anymore. And I just found that was a big waste of time.
So now, just on your business development now, like,
yeah,
so I'm sure you still use the phone to
for
call
sure.
right? So do you ever call like a completely cold prospect now who doesn't know who you are, or is most people that you speak to now, they've done something, like you said, they've done something to indicate they have a need in some way?
99.9% have indicated some level of a need. It can be as small as I've sent you 10 emails, you've opened up 8 of them. That's enough for me to give you a call. You have clicked on a link. You may not have booked a call, but you've clicked on a link. You've answered a poll that I put on LinkedIn. You have opened and read a newsletter article. You've DM'd me. You have done something to indicate you at least know who I am, so that the conversation can flow in a smooth enough way to where I can set up that sales call, right? Because not every single time I pick up the phone, they answer, right? So
just on that part, right? So, well, you know, obviously you used to do like call completely cold prospects. Now you're calling prospects who have, you know who you are and have indicated the need.
Yeah.
What's the difference in terms of the, you know, what that initial phone call, that initial conversation you have with a prospect? How does that go compared to, you know, what it was like when it was cold?
When it was completely cold, they didn't have time to talk to me, or they rushed me. What do you want? What do you need? It was very much a commoditized conversation. Yeah, I know you're a recruiter. You're going to tell me that you can find X, Y, and Z. Get on with it. It was a lot of get on with it attitude. Just hurry up with the conversation. Don't really have too much time for you. I'd say now I've had people share, just when I say, hey, this is Sean with Content. Yeah, I know who you are. I had a person, I could show you the DM, somebody that I emailed, not even emailed, on LinkedIn Navigator. I messaged them, just, you know, starting a conversation. They said, hey, are you the one, is Crown the person that shared with us this product? It was the Product Accelerator product that I used. You guys helped me create. I forgot what the software.
The scorecard. The scorecard.
Scorecard. There you go.
Yep.
There you go. Are you the person that created the accelerator, the Product Accelerator scorecard? I had not talked to this person a day before or prior. So just seeing the messaging and seeing my history with them, that is a far more warmer conversation. They've used a product that I've shared with them. The conversation flows a lot smoother. They're more willing. If they don't have anything today as an opportunity, I know that I'm eventually going to get something from them at some point, because there's familiarity, there's some level of trust, and they see me as an industry expert offering value. That's the biggest key too. I offer far more value today than I ever did. I have more to offer, right? I think that's the key. I just turn a lot of my content into something that I can offer them.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Michelle, thanks for that, Drew. Thanks, Sean. Michelle, would you mind just reading out what you've typed just for the recording? And Si, I'm going to come to you next.
Yeah, it was just about the point before, the one that Sean's just been talking about, you know, that change and transformation, and the Harvard Business Review. I mean, it's well known, you know, most transformations fail. They reckon it's only 12% of organizations that go through major change programs produce lasting results. And one of the top things that they cite for better success is that transformation is should be used as a sort of continuous improvement process. You know, it's not a silver bullet really. So yeah, it was that.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Michelle. Si, can't see you, buddy. You there, Si?
Should be
Yeah,
one.
he's on mute.
Okay. Yeah. Could you turn your mic on, please, Si?
So, Si, if you look at the bottom left, there's a mute. There you
Hi,
go.
hello, mate. Hi.
See, Mike, it's not just you and I that have a problem with the microphone. I told you.
No, the toolbar was over the hi, congratulations, Sean, on your first year. So some of that I've been involved now for this is my second month, and a lot of what you said there it ringing very, very true indeed. I mean, especially about the information overload. So I'm glad that's not just me. So a couple of questions, and obviously I'm assuming that you're using a CRM, and obviously you've automated your LinkedIn process and your email outreach. What CRM are you using, and how long did it take you to actually set that up and get that up and running, assuming you weren't doing it before?
So I came into the business. So what I did day one of starting my business, I really just duplicated what I was doing with my agency. So for better or for worse, I hadn't had any experience with other CRMs other than Bullhorn when I first started. Super outdated in my opinion, and from my experience, it just didn't work for the type of business that I was running now versus what I was doing on the agency side. Two very different models. So initially it was Bullhorn, a lot of money spent there. I've recently, over the past 5 months, switched over to Loxo, and I actually got that.
So sorry, what was that switched over to?
Loxo, Loxo.
Thanks.
They have a lot of, AI components, just different tools that make it a bit more of a better fit for me now. Yeah.
Right.
And I got that from Julie in the group.
And how long into the program did you actually have the LinkedIn process automated?
I automated the process July of last year, so maybe 4 months after.
The program.
Because again, I went from using LinkedIn never. When I tell you I never posted anything prior to March 2023 of joining the program, you might have gotten 4 or 5 posts out of me.
Right. Yeah.
In the past 7-8 years. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a tool that I used. I knew I didn't really see social selling as a thing. So yeah, it's been a complete revamp. The headcount in terms of just my, people that I'm connected to, it is literally doubled since March of this, of joining the program. So yeah, it took a while. It took a while for me to, kind of get that up and going, but, and I'm still revamping just the scripts and the things that I say and how I introduce conversations. I think I've got a pretty decent cadence right now, but yeah, it's constantly a work in progress.
Yeah, right.
What worked 8 months ago may not start the conversation today. So, yeah.
Thank you for that, Sean. Thank you. Very helpful.
No problem.
Thanks, Si. I want to come on to pricing and fee structure and that type of thing. Intellectually, everybody here knows that one of the quickest and easiest ways to increase your sales is to increase your fees. But the moment you say that to more so people outside the group, they will say, yeah, but my market won't pay, blah, blah, blah. And I think most of you here now would acknowledge that, and this is what I always say to potential clients, is they say, yeah, but my market won't pay 18% or whatever. And the question I always ask is, are you the cheapest in your market right now? They go, no, we're not the cheapest. We're kind of mid-range. Think about that intellectually. There's no advantage being mid-range. There's no strategic advantage. You're not the cheapest, you're not the most expensive. So you're now mid-range. And if you're mid-range, what you're saying is there are recruiters out there charging more than you in getting business, and there are recruiters charging less than you in getting business. And often what we find is the fee that you charge or you ask for, you're comfortable asking for, I should say, is this merely a reflection of your own personal self-worth. That's all it is. It's all what's going on there. So I'm really intrigued by this one, Sean. When you joined or before you joined us, what percentage were you charging and what's your fee now?
20%. that was my standard. I really didn't go below that at all prior to joining the organ, the community. Now I'm at 25%. Seems like a small percentage, but it definitely has helped with the bottom line. I charge that and an engagement fee. I did never charge an engagement fee before. So that is just before I even send you a resume, before we even hop on the phone and have any discussion, there's an upfront fee to pay me. So that has been a game changer in terms of cash flow. That gives some level of predictability to cash flow. And it also, when the role is filled, because it is an exclusive, 99% of them we're going to fill, I at least know what the outcome is going to be, and I know how much we're going to be paid. So that beats contingency in my eyes, based on my experience, any day.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. How long did it take you to, because again, for everybody else, that's a decision. What Sean then did, he made a decision. I'm going to increase my fees by, and you say it's not much, by the way, it's 25%. 25% increase in fees is quite something. So the question is, how long did it take to make that decision, first of all, to go, right, I was 20% on contingent, I'm now 25% on retain, deposit, contain, whatever you want to call it. How long did it take?
So I worked in stages, right? I'd love to say I just burst out the gate. I came in March. By April, I was at 25% with an engagement fee. Not true, right? For me, it was a gradual progression. And to your point, it's about the belief, right? The belief in self. So I started at 20%, no engagement fee. I graduated to 20%, give me an exclusive. Then I graduated maybe 4 or 5 months after that, give me an exclusive, to now let me ask for an engagement fee, still at 20%. Then I graduated from an engagement fee of, X amount to 25%, which is a higher percentage in terms of the annual salary, and an engagement fee. So it worked for me in stages. And as my belief grew, as my faith in the fulfillment and delivery side grew, and the type of clients that I was working with, the type of partnerships grew, that's when I started to ask for bigger fees. So I would say I'm at that 25% and an engagement fee for the past 3-4 months now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you noticed with Sean's language, because nothing's changed. The market hasn't changed. But what he said was his belief in himself had changed, and he now felt comfortable. Hell, it's 25% with an engagement. The outside world hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That's Mark that's done that. Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Sean. Sorry. So I'm having two conversations. Somebody said we think I'm chatting. I'm trying to do. Apologies about that, Sean. Just very quickly, Sean, just because this is a point that you haven't mentioned at all, and I think we ought to bring it up. When did your wife join the company? Because I was aware that was transformational for when your wife.
It was definitely helpful. So my wife had a 4-month sabbatical from her, traditional. She's a career woman, 9-to-5 job, climbing that corporate ladder. That's always been her thing. But she brings a lot of just structure to me personally in our marriage and in the business. And she, took 4 or 5 months to just kind of help me get some structure, help me kind of streamline a few things, and that's been super helpful. She's since gone back over the past 3 months now. She's going back to her, job and her career, but always a supporter, always there if I need it. But those 4 or 5 months that I had her exclusively not working and just working with me, she just brought really just that awesome structure and that
no doubt you've shown your appreciation with expensive jewelry and what else?
Yes, sir.
This call's being recorded, just to let you know, Sean. I will be sending it to you. Cheers, mate. Seriously, Mike. Yeah, Mike, and then Michelle.
Yeah, I'd just be interested in probing a little bit more. You say your belief grew.
Yeah.
If I look at Sean Bartley 12 months ago and Sean Bartley now, what I see is almost a different individual in terms of the way you talk, the way you communicate, the way you articulate. I hear someone who's excited about working in their business. And my question around that would be, how do you think, two-pronged question, how do you think, one, your self-image has changed? And secondly, beyond that, what has been instrumental in changing your self-image?
Results and trying things and seeing a positive result. that for me has helped, right? I knew that I could stick with a coaching program. I've had coaching and mentorship in communities in different stages of life for different areas of things that I wanted to master. So I knew that just getting the right person to help me kind of formulate my structure and my process, all I needed to do was make it work. And in tinkering and listening to the audios and doing the lessons and, you know, reviewing the material, over time, I just became clearer on the type of client I wanted, became clearer on the type of relationships I wanted to build with those clients, who I served, what problems I solved. Those are all things that I did not have clearly defined 12 months ago. So now that I'm clear on who I serve, I'm now looking at content and reviewing material that supports that. All of that just leads to more trust in my ability, more confidence in my ability, because I'm better prepared to go to market, right? Because I'm actually a student. I'm doing the work on the back end to understand what's the language my clients are using, what's the language that the candidates are using to help solve the problems that my clients have. All of that didn't exist 12 months ago. Again, I didn't have any foundation for it, right? I didn't know it existed. I didn't know it was important to know the language of my client. I just thought you pick the phone up, you get a job, you fill it. Simple. You know, I really believe that's the simplicity of this industry, and that's kind of the knock on it too. It's overly simplified, and it to truly be a master or to be respectable in this craft, that student hat has to be on 24/7. So I think that's the biggest thing. Once I felt comfortable in knowing that I'm doing the work behind the scenes and I can communicate what I'm doing and how I serve better, that for me was where the confidence built. And then that just translated into communicating to the recruiters better so that we were on the same page to fill the jobs and, you know, make more money, quite honestly.
Excellent. And again, listen to Sean's language. You see, because whatever identity that you have now, to get to where you want to get to, it's a different person. It's one of the questions we ask you. Who do you need to be to achieve your goal? But were you conscious of Sean's language, and Mike talked about it, just a change in the identity? And we touched on this on Monday about your future identity, because it's the future identity that will get you the goals. But unless you know what that goal is and who you need to be, that's where the challenge is, because we will always perform to our identity. This is who I am. I recruit at 10% and I recruit at salaries of 30,000, example. Another identity, hell no, I don't do anything below 200,000 at a minimum of 28%. That's your personal identity. That's all it is. I say all, it's a big part of it. Really interesting. I'm gonna, Michelle, I'm gonna come to you. Sorry, somebody gonna say something. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna.
Oh, Sean, yeah.
I was gonna give you just a very recent, past 7 days example of the identity. So I had a potential client reach out to me, someone that was on my list that I had targeted, large food and beverage company manufacturer. They'd received my information from the VP of HR, right? I cold called this woman, not cold call, but warm called them and had a conversation. It wasn't the right time. She passed my information to her lead talent acquisition director. She conversed with me, wanted to sign the contract, wanted to see the agreement, had no issues with anything. There was no sales involved in it. It was really just a done deal because of the relationship I'd built with her manager. The caveat was they pay every 180 days. That was the biggest difference. I said, there's no way in the world I'm doing work now and being paid 180 days from when this person starts working. It was like, we don't do net anything. It is no net 30s, no net 60s. 180 days after they start, that's when we're able to pay you. I said, I don't care how many jobs you have. I'm not doing it. I would have brought that into an agency had I been doing agency work a year ago. No question. Right.
Yeah.
So that
great example.
Like, there's no way in the world I'm doing that today. But if I was working for someone, absolutely, I'm bringing that in all day.
Yeah, great example. Thanks for that. Thank you. So I'm going to come to you and then to you, Paul Foster. Oh, sorry, Michelle. Now let me come to you first of all, and I'll cover this off. Yes, Sai.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, Sean. You might have answered this earlier on.
Yeah.
I missed it. But you obviously talking about the markets that you're in and the clients that you're speaking to. Have you adapted your markets in any way since you joined the program? Have you changed that in any way, or are you still speaking to exactly the same people or the same type of people?
And I think that for me was the eye opener. I'm talking to the same people that I talked to 3 or 4 years ago before I started my business. It's really no difference in terms of the market. It's the way that I go to market that is very different today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, I didn't think anyone in this manufacturing and engineering. So manufacturing engineering companies, that's about anywhere between 100 employees to 1,000 employees. That's my target. They either have a small HR team or they have none at all, and they outsource everything. That's really my space that I play in. I truly didn't think that they would pay engagement fees. I didn't think that they would pay money up front because I'd never worked somewhere where they got $1 up front. So that was a very different mindset for me, and I didn't think it existed in my space. But it does, and that for me blew me away the most because I did not change my market. It's the same engineering and manufacturing companies I've been calling on. Just the way that I approach them and the go-to-market strategy has changed. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you, mate.
Yep.
Thanks, Si. Paul Foster.
Yeah, Sean, get yourself on camera. This is good energy. Your clients need to see more of you. That's what I think.
Here.
You know, if everyone else is doing ChatGPT and written work, you need to be on video. But that wasn't why I wanted to speak to you. I wanted to ask. My understanding is that before you would work contingent roles, and then you would engage with delivery, so recruitment delivery from Upwork. Are you still using that model?
So I still use Upwork, and again, all of it has been a change in me. So the change in the job description that I put out on Upwork attracts a different type of recruiter for the fulfillment and the delivery side. I pay a little bit upfront now, right? Before I wasn't. It was 100%. When you help me fill this job, I can then pay you. But now that my business model has changed, the clients are giving me a little bit more money up front. I can then throw a couple of dollars to the recruiter up front just to let them know I'm not jerking you around. This is an engaged role. This is an exclusive role. You will be paid upon filling the position. Let me give you a little something up front. That has brought just a different caliber and a different type of recruiter to me. Because I found in the very beginning, I had a gentleman, he was okay with taking 10% on the back end, not getting anything up front and 10% on the back end. That kind of spoke to just the level of recruitment that I'd probably get from that individual, right? Like, I don't know many people worth their grain and salt that would take 10% of a fee. And that's not a knock on anyone that may do that today, but there's just a greener pasture, you know, as you move through the process. I would never even agree or have a conversation with a recruiter today that was okay with taking 10%. I know the level of work that I'm going to get out of that type of recruiter, but you know, I do find that has that throwing a couple of dollars in the beginning has helped. The platform has not changed. I'm still on Upwork.
Okay, and just to kind of check in then, so are you now using when you put out a job, are you going to exclude, like, your clients are using you exclusive? Are you using those recruiters on an exclusive?
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
and then those are kind of like you've now found which ones are like working the best for you, right? Great.
I've gone through anywhere between 10 to 15 in the past 2 years, right? And that just made me feel very uncomfortable because I really didn't have a level of expectation, right? It was too up and down. So I'm at a space now where I think I found 2 to 3 really good ones that I just keep in my back pocket. They have other clients, but not in my space, nor is there any crossover for the type of projects that I'm working on. They all sign an NDA. It's all legally binding. And yeah, I just kind of use those 2 or 3 for all of my projects today.
And what aren't they doing? Are they finding, approaching, interviewing the full works, or where do you then get involved? What's the kind of where they finish and you start? Because I'm just trying to get a sense of how much BD work you're doing versus delivery.
BD work is 90%. 10% is just if they have a really, so for example, I've got a client, they're brand new. I want to make sure we knock it out the park on this particular role. Recruiter found a good candidate. They interviewed. I partner with the recruiter before they even start searching on a couple of solid questions that I need you to ask on every single interview. Once those questions are asked, they, use Otter, or they use, whatever note-taking tool to make sure that they record the answers for those questions. They submit that to me. I take a look at it. I review it and send it back to I send that write-up with all the specs and all the details to the client. The client now wants to interview. Because it's a, high-profile role, brand new client, I'm still learning them. They're still learning me. I will call that candidate and just have a brief 10-minute conversation just to make sure we're not passing along or nothing was missed between the candidate and the recruiter. And that I feel confident as the person owning the entire process, I feel confident promoting and pushing this candidate forward. So that's when I'll have, brief, maybe 10-minute conversations with really good ones, maybe before they get the offer, or just yesterday, I called a candidate for the first time, having a conversation with them to extend an offer. Those are things that I still want to have a hand in, but it doesn't take up much of my time because it is, I'm not at a high volume. I'm working at max 3 to 5 jobs for the month. So it's still very manageable that I can be hands-on. I'm sure as I scale and maybe get it to 10 to 15, different story. But for right now, I'm pretty hands-on with at least having a conversation with the really good candidates, especially for clients that I've never worked with before.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks,
Keep
Paul.
going.
Michelle, come to you. Michelle, I know you had a question. Sorry, Michelle, I missed you before.
That's okay, thanks. So yeah, Sean, I was just wanting to go back to the point of the increasing fees, because everybody wants that, it's like the utopia, isn't it? But rather than just the size of the fee, I mean, other than the revenue number, what difference did winning increased fees do for you and your business? What change did that was that bring about?
Biggest change I'd say is a bit of a peace of mind. Knowing that you're going into a search on equal playing field, right? So it's not so much about the fee, it's more so about the process that got the fee, which leads to more of a collaborative environment that I'm stepping into. Of course, the fee, additional money, it helps. It more predictable revenue, of course, that always assists, and I can budget for family and myself and marketing and just different conferences. So this year I'm actually going to 2 new conferences that I'd never attended before. They require, some solid money and a solid investment up front. I'm able to do that a bit more freely now and able to plan a little bit better, because I at least have some predictability in terms of revenue. So that's been helpful. That's been super helpful. But really, it's the mindset of, okay, I'm at least stepping into this thing with some level of respect, and we're on equal playing fields, and I have nothing but confidence that we're going to fill every job that we bring in right now.
Fabulous, thank you. And you talked about your beliefs as well, and like how you didn't believe or didn't know that things were possible, and then obviously those were challenged. I mean, we've talked about the difficulty in driving change. So I mean, when you sort of got the knowledge versus what you believed previously, what did you have to do to sort of, I suppose, become the person that you wanted to be? What was more difficult, or the opportunity for you?
For me, like, for example, just even in posting every day on LinkedIn. So I'm still not at every single day, 7 days a week. I'm at about 4 to 5 days. I'd say 4 days. 4 days a week I'm going to post on LinkedIn. For me, coming up with the content, I was vulnerable. I had to be vulnerable. I had to kind of expose myself, expose my journey, expose the business. It was a lot of exposure. Oftentimes, even in writing copy, even in asking for a meeting, it's exposure, right? I'm really exposing myself in a way that I truly hadn't before. And I also thought that it might annoy people if I'm coming to you every 4 to 6 weeks, every 4 to 8 weeks, asking for a meeting, asking for time on the calendar, asking, so I just had to overcome that by knowing that no one's going to just click a button and book an appointment and that be my business model. Like just putting the button out there for you to click is not enough, right? So I knew that there had to be some sort of ask and call to action for everything that I did. And it didn't have to be the same call to action, but even coming up with a call to action and asking for something every time, that was uncomfortable for me. But I knew that it was more uncomfortable thinking about going back to the agency, going back to the job, falling on my sword, so to speak. That for me was more uncomfortable than, and you realize the more you do it and the more you are vulnerable, people rally around you. People rally around, want to support, want to encourage, want to share a lead. They want to do a video testimonial for you. People want to help. They want to be a part of your journey. I literally had somebody say, Sean, someone I met last year, they're like, I feel so invested in your success and I don't even know you. Like I feel invested, right? I think it's cool that you started this and you just want to build something and build a better mousetrap. And heck yeah, I'll share insights, share intel when I can and help. I think people just truly want to champion somebody, but you've just got to put yourself out there to be championed and advocated for and supported. So I think that was the biggest thing, just realizing, no one's coming to save you. You got to go out there and expose yourself a bit and be vulnerable.
Very good. It's interesting because until you were just talking about exposure, whenever I think about, we need to get exposure for the business, I never see it really in a negative light, but you're absolutely right that you need that vulnerability, don't you? And you don't really think about it like that, but to get exposure, you need to be exposed. And I think that's a great point. Thank you.
Fantastic point there, Michelle.
Scary as hell. It's scary as hell, especially one that, is not guarded, but we live in a society sometimes where a lot of bravado or all is well, everything's going well, money's being made, clients out the wazoo, and that's not the case, right? And sometimes in just exposing the journey and sharing, you come across that way. So I think it's just important for me at least, to make sure that I'm sharing the journey and communicating that throughout the process.
Yeah, awesome. I think there's great lesson there about vulnerability. And just very quickly, think about the people that you like and admire and whatever. They've always shown their vulnerability because it shows that they're real, by the way. Really good point there, Sean. Because I've got to go. Sean, Drew's going to be here for a bit longer. I've got to go shortly. But just one question I want to ask before I go is, in terms of percentage increase from where you were March 2023 to where you are now, what sort of percentage increase are we looking at, Sean?
So I will say this. Once the invoice gets paid this month, I will have made all of the revenue from I would have exceeded the revenue that I did in 2023, the entire 12 months. So in the first 4 months of this month, I've matched what I've made in terms of beyond percentage, but just in terms of total revenue, I would have matched and exceeded it just by a little bit.
Fantastic. Congratulations on that. And I've got to go now. I just want to say a massive thank you. I know I got a lot from this. I know a lot of the other guys did, and I got some great feedback here from the other guys. So a massive thank you. And again, for just exposing yourself, which doesn't sound right as I say that, but you know what I mean. Just showing your vulnerability. It sounds so much better. You're a star. Thank you very much indeed, Sean. I've got to go, folks. But I'll see you all on Monday for Monday Momentum. Drew's going to take over.
Sean, just to check, did you just say, just to make sure I heard that right, did you say like in the first 4 months of this year you generated more revenue than you did for the whole of last year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well done, buddy. Take care, folks.
Awesome. Bryn, before we wrap up, any questions from anybody? Any last thoughts you want to get from Sean? No, if not, then we'll speak with you next week on Monday. Sean, again, congratulations on everything you've achieved so far.
Appreciate it.
It's been awesome. I didn't realize he's doing so well, actually. But yeah, thanks a lot for your time. And we'll speak with you next week.
Talk to you soon. See you guys
Take care.
later.
Bye.
Nice.